Welcome to the Headley Highlight Show's Headley Headspaces. The Headspaces are a series of thoughts and musings I have during the course of the week, and I chew all over them and then I share them with you. And this particular Headspace is called Trump and his Tariffs. What's the real reason for them? And who's the real target? Before I jump into this headspace this week, I'd like to thank all the people who have been listening to my podcast, who have been visiting my YouTube channel and my website, and who have subscribed to my YouTube channel as well. I have got 950 subscribers. If you'd like to be the 951st or the 960th, please do so. It will be amazing, and I will be delivered directly into your inbox, which is marvelous, darling. Please also visit my website at deniseheadley.com, where you can make a donation. I accept fiat and cryptocurrencies, and I'm very partial to wings, chips and a drink, or rice and peas oxtail with beans and carrots, coleslaw and salad with a piece of cake and a fruit punch to wash it down. I'd be most appreciating of that. So, let's jump straight onto the headspace. And this week's headspace is called Trump and his Tariffs. What's really behind it and who is it targeting? So this week, you heard there were a series of articles and newspaper reports about President Trump and his tariffs. Many countries received lower tariffs of 10%, such as the UK, but many other countries, such as China, he is imposing 105% tariff on China. The important thing to remember about tariffs is tariffs are effectively like a surcharge, that's how I understand them, on goods that are imported or goods that are sold. And the way they work is that if I impose a tariff on you, your goods become more expensive for me to purchase, because don't forget, most of the purchases for world trade are made in US dollars. So therefore, if I have to exchange my local currency to buy more dollars because there's now a surcharge, a tariff on that, that's going to make my item more expensive and less competitive in the marketplace, because now the means of production, the cost of production are higher. And that's what Trump is imposing with his tariff schedule. Now, at the top of the podcast, I asked, what was the real reason behind Trump's tariffs? He said in his inaugural speeches and several speeches that he's spoken about since then, that he wants to see America re-industrialized. So he presumably accepts the premise that America was de-industrialized. And he sees imposing tariffs as a way of generating income for America, which they can invest domestically. It's also my understanding that the money that you raise from tariffs doesn't need the oversight of Congress for any spending. So he can spend that money as he chooses. So therefore, like he said, it's going to generate trillions and trillions of dollars, which he'll be able to spend in the way in which he sees as fit, without the same degree of oversight and scrutiny as if it was a different form of income generation for the country, which was going to go through the Treasury. One of the other real reasons I think that Trump is imposing tariffs is because he's trying to protect the reserve currency position of the American dollar. America is the reserve currency of the world in the same way that sterling used to be before the collapse of the British Empire. It's the currency that all other currencies are pegged against. It's the basis of the financial system, which is the Bretton Woods system and SWIFT and the money transfer system. It's also the currency that's used for trade settlements. The reason that's important is because Trump is using his tariffs as a weapon to say to countries who are all invested in using this financial system, that's what happens when sanctions are imposed. You're basically kicked off the financial system. He's saying that you will be kicked off this financial system if you don't pay the tariffs. So he's using that system as a way of discouraging countries of trading with other countries who are less likely to hold dollar reserves or want to keep on trading using the dollar as the main settlement currency. So tariffs for Donald Trump are also a way of attacking China, because China is part of BRICS, and the BRICS countries and many of the partner countries within BRICS are de-dollarizing. You've got the Shanghai Cooperation Bank, you have new systems of trade which bypass SWIFT, And as more and more countries trade less with America and more with China, Trump sees a way in which of debilitating China's rise, because China is now the main trading partner of most of the global south. And as a percentage of GDP, China is the biggest trading partner of all countries on the planet. It's 19% and America's 15%. By imposing tariffs on countries who are trading heavily with China, I think Trump is trying to force those countries to decouple from China by way of effectively tariff, using the financial system as a tool within which they will say to those countries, if you don't adhere to this tariff arrangement that we have, we will effectively hurt your economies. We'll kick you off the financial system, and effectively it will be like sanctions. They will find it hard to trade, and many countries are not prepared to be sanction proof. They haven't done the work that Russia's done. Russia is sanction proof, and just like China, unlike Syria and unlike Libya and unlike Venezuela. So that's part of the reason I think Trump is using the tariff system as a way of trying to attack China as its peer competitor. And that's the roundabout way in which I'm saying I think that the wider target for the tariffs is not about creating a sense of fairness with trade. It's about generating income for the US, charging those countries effectively for their security, because they're talking about public good and sharing the burden of that public good. And what they talk about in terms of that is power projection, the use of the dollar and the use of the financial system. And they're saying that America bears the cost of those things. And now we need to consolidate everyone else's use of those things. And, the good side effects of that is you pay us some money. And if you stop trading with China and you do more trading with us, come and build your factories in the US, pay the tariff, slightly damage your economy a little bit. But, you let the American hegemony, the power of this system to maintain itself. This is a good thing, because that will also effectively hurt China. One of the other things I wonder about this whole tariff agenda is whether or not President Trump is actually trying to devalue the American dollar. And the reason I say that is because the dollar is artificially kept high. It's the currency that all other currencies are measured against. And as a consequence of that, any debt you have to pay is pretty expensive with inflated money. If you bring the cost of the money down, you bring the cost of the debt down, don't you? And given that America is spending 3% of its GDP on interest payments, if you bring down the value of the money, presumably the value of the debt might go down. But this is me thinking out loud. I don't even know if that's true. But I do think that question about the cost of manufacturing in America with an expensive internal currency is a pertinent one. And also the fact that they have to spend so much of their gross domestic product on servicing debt. That's a huge issue. And I think President Trump is hoping that tariffs will address those two things. I think this is going on too long, so I'm going to just summarize. I think the real reason that the tariffs are in place is because President Trump sees China as its peer competitor. If they are engaged in a trade war with China, they are hoping that China will buckle. But I don't think that's going to be the case. I think it's a very dangerous game of economic chicken. I don't know if the American economy is ready to withstand a trade war with China. And I don't know if the rest of the world is in the same place as it was 10 or 20 years ago, where America was the sole marketplace that they all wanted to be. The world has changed. It's a multipolar world now with different markets in different places. That's why you've got BRICS. That's why you've got Russia. That's why you've got all different countries trading in different ways. I think the shockwaves that the tariff war, the trade war is causing is a significant one. You can see how much money has been wiped off of how many of the local indexes, the FTSE 500, the Dow Jones. And I don't necessarily know if it's going to harm China in the way that President Trump hopes. So those are my 2 pences on the tariffs. I don't profess to be an economist, but then again, there might be some economists out there or people with slightly different financial brains that might want to jump all over my thoughts about, the way the tariffs are potentially might be used to reduce the cost of interest payments on the debt that America carries. Give me your thoughts, your 2 pence, your 3 cities, or your declining dollar price. That's a very pertinent one. Jump up in the DMs, make a donation at denisehedley.com, and also subscribe to my YouTube channel. Thanks for listening, and see you next week, and cut!